Hey everyone, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Bavarian Village House A. Now I've already made two of them, and this is my last one, so I'm really on a roll here. And I have everything cut out, as should you. And I guess logically you would start with House A and end with C. I kind of did it backwards, just grabbed whatever was ready. And actually got the, I guess they're not difficult, but House C is a little bit more involved, and this one is probably the quickest, so we should probably breeze through this one, especially if you've done other ones already. So we're going to begin by putting our vellum in place here, and usually before I do, I like to kind of just make sure that I've got the right ones in the right spot. Now obviously there's two circular ones, and you can tell by the shape on this window that this piece is going to go there. And we have a similar piece here, and then there's these two little windows in front. I think that's the front, yep. So I'm gonna get these glued down, and with vellum, I like to use just little dots around the perimeter. You could put a tiny little one in the center there. I would probably hit that with my finger to thin it out so it doesn't come splashing out into the cutout area, just like that. And this should go pretty quick. You just want to go in a little circle there, thin that out, and just give that a quick little tap. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered, as nobody is going to see the inside of these houses. They're designed specifically to be a decor piece. Okay, and just pop that right into place, like so. And let's move on to the next one, nice and quick. That with my finger, pop that into place, and just moving right along here. Get that one in place, and the last one. Now this one is smaller. The roof is actually, it's kind of curved. It's not a straight roof, so this one in that sense is going to be a little more challenging, but it's not going to be difficult by any means. Okay, now while we still have this thing flat, I'm going to flip it over, and there are some pieces that we can put down ahead of time here. I don't know what that was. Hopefully that gets covered up. Let me see here real quick. Mostly, it should be okay. I guess, you know, if something like that happens, grab a clean eraser and see if you can just erase it. Mine is mostly coming off. That's fine. Okay, these windows we're not going to put on just yet because we do need to get those aligned with little panels that need to go on. So first we're going to do these little circular ones. Just use a few little dots. And it's a symmetrical piece, so it doesn't matter which way you put it on, just as long as you line up the little cross there. That's the main objective. And if you need to give it a little nudge, now's the time. Okay. You can also put this one down right here. So grab that little panel, the trim piece for the window, just little dots of glue. And there we go. Okay, and we'll go over to this side here, and there's also a little door, but we're gonna wait till we put the trim down for the door as well. So just a little tip here, anytime you can, while you're working with paper like this, if you can do anything flat and use your table as a kind of a helper, you definitely want to do that. It will give you a better end result. You have less creasing, less warping, all that good stuff. Okay, so there we go. Pop that into place like so. Okay, all right, so that's that. And I'm gonna go ahead and kind of put the house together. So grab these two pieces. I'm gonna start with this side here. This is the back. And I'm going to apply my glue to this long tab here. Relatively long, shorter than the other two houses, but it's probably the longest tab we'll see on this project. Okay, and then you can actually do this flat first time around in the first section here. Just grab the other piece, line it up with that tab. Okay, make sure that this line here, this horizontal line, matches up with that one. And press that down. I'm going to fold it over onto itself. And that actually allows me to make sure that I've got it nice and lined up. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to close this up by putting glue on this tab and just closing it up there. So let's do that. And run that glue out to the very edge of the tab. Grab the other end, and we kind of have to do this in the air. Don't want to put that down on your surface because this is not exactly a symmetrical piece. So line that up as accurately as you can right onto that tab. You can put it down like this and press down from the inside. Okay, there we go. So the structure's coming together for us here. And the next thing we're going to do is just to make this more manageable, I'm going to glue this little flap here to this tab. We're going to do the bottom part first, but I don't like how this thing's flailing around. And this is purely structural, so I'm not worried about getting that glue out to the very edge of the tab. I just want to make sure it's nice and lined up and that it's holding nicely for us. Just like that. Okay, now you can pull this section down. And what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on these 4 little teeth, these little triangular tabs. And again, this is structural, so we don't need to go crazy with it. But bring that up and press that up against those 2 triangular tabs. And be patient while that sets. Pretty important little piece. It's going to hold the structure together. We'll move over to the other side and press that down right into place. There we go. Okay, we can go over to the other side now. Fold that out of the way. And we'll apply our glue to these 4 tabs. And I'm just going to kind of dab that a bit just to get it out of there so it doesn't come shooting out the side here. Okay, and line that up nice and flush to that tab and this tab. Beautiful. And then go on over to the other side. Line that up to these 2 tabs. Perfect. Okay. Make sure that it's really holding nice and tight. Okay, and then finally, we have these 4 tabs here. We're going to put glue on these, and we'll put that little top section in place. Again, not overly concerned about getting the glue out to the edges here, since this is purely structural. I just made up a word. And that is all going to be hidden. So make sure that the peak of the roof is matching up with the peak of this piece here. Get those lined up nicely. And give that a quick press. And then move over here. And press that down into place. There we go. Okay. So that is the main structure of our house. I'm going to fold these tabs up so it sits nice and flat for us. Okay. And while we have it like this, we can take and apply our little panels. So why don't we do that? There's obviously 4. There's 2. One for this is the back. And before we put that on, let's glue this little piece in place onto the little door. This is how we're going to put our little electronic tea light into the house once this is all done. And it's also how you can take it out and turn it on or off if you don't have a remote. Glue that in place, okay? And we're actually going to start by putting on the sides Okay, now you'll notice that there's a thicker piece here at the top, and then these two little sections at the bottom. That's going to go at the bottom, this section. This thicker part goes to the top. I just want to make sure that we get it centered and that also it's nice and flush with the bottom. Okay, so, you know, because this is a smaller house, it actually is going a little bit faster. There's less surface area for glue. It's easier to hold. Even the tabs to construct the structure of the house are smaller. Okay, so just make sure, again, it's nice and centered. You may feel with your fingers that this piece is slightly going over this surface that I'm putting it on, and that is by design, so that when we put the front and the back on, they almost kind of lock in at the corners there. Okay, but that turned out nice. You can put it down on its face and press down from the inside, and we'll go over to the other side here and grab the other piece that looks like that and get that down into place. So get your glue rocking and rolling here, just like that. And let's get that glued into place. Thicker part pointing up, the skinnier part at the bottom. And again, I'm using my fingers, my two thumbs at the bottom to kind of feel and make sure that it's flush. And then I'm using these fingers here to feel and make sure that it's centered. And once that's the case, I can flip it down on its face and push down from the inside to help that kind of sit and set quicker. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Everything's looking good. All right, this is our front, this is our back. I'm going to put the back on first. I like to kind of save the most important piece for last because I feel like by then I'll kind of have a better feel for what I'm doing. Okay, so let's flip this over. And you do not want to put any glue on the actual door mechanism, just around the perimeter here. So stay below that little score mark down there. Okay, I have a feeling I'm going to be running out of quote-unquote tape, and I'm going to have to hit record here in a second again. So if you see that it's a choppy edit, that's why. Okay, so again, just kind of using my fingers here at the bottom to check to make sure that it's flush with the bottom. And then I'll kind of go around and make sure that all of these sides are in the correct spot as well. There we go. Perfect. I can put that down on its face and press down from the inside. There we go. And the all-important door, oh boy, I got a lot of glue shooting out of there. Whoopsies. It's okay, it happens. Oh, and by the way, I found my Velcro dots. I was using some tiny little foam squares on the other two, but here is how these little Velcro dots to keep the door closed. Just peel off the backing on one side. Okay, and pop that right onto this little circular section here. And peel the backing off of the other one, if it'll come off. Sometimes they don't like to come off. Oops. I'll put that right onto the Velcro part, and then you can close it. It'll grab the paper, and now you've got your little Velcro dot keeping your door open and closed, or keeping it closed and allowing you to open it. Okay, so finally here we've got the panel on the front, and just like we did with the back, with this one actually you can put glue on all of this. There's no little door, so you don't need to worry about that. And I can see where I kind of goofed up last time where I had that bit of glue shoot out. It's because when I put the glue bottle down, it's kind of putting more glue in that little area. So I'm just going to hit that with my finger, thin it out, so it doesn't come splashing out, especially on the front. I don't want any blemishes on the front because everyone's going to be looking at that. And I need a little extra glue there at the bottom. It's already starting to dry. Okay, so very exact same thing. I was going to say very similar, but literally the exact same process here. Make sure that the windows are matching up nicely, that it's flush at the bottom, flush along the perimeter there. And once it's in place, looks good there, can put it down on its face and press down from the inside. Okay. We're really making a lot of progress here. This is great in a short amount of time. So it just goes to show that the smaller a project is, the faster it goes. I mean, it seems like common sense, but I'm actually surprised at how quickly this is going together. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we do have some little trim pieces that we had to wait to put on. We can put them on now. So grab these round windows and just pop those right into place, right on top of the brown shadow portion. Okay, there we go. That looks great. Grab the other one and glue that down to the other window. Perfect. Okay, and then finally, we have our little door that we need to put on, and that is going to go right up to the top. You want to leave a little bit of you want to leave the entire piece of trim down at the bottom there. You want to leave that exposed, so you want to line it up with the round top part and not the bottom. I'll show you what I mean here. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Just like that. Okay. And there are three little accent pieces. They're going to go on the door. I believe these are part of the hinges, or maybe it's just decorative. I'm not really completely sure. Okay, but they kind of look like little hot dogs. Just get your glue on there. And we do have little markers to help you with the positioning of these two. You want to keep them just below the marker on there. And then you're going to go below the marker on the other one as well. Okay. And pop that into place. And then we have a little door handle. It's kind of like a little squiggly. Like some old country stuff. This little black piece. And with this, you just need a tiny dot of glue on there. Just one little glue. And it's like a backward S. There is a little marker there to help you with the placement. So definitely use that to your advantage. And if you happen to get some glue on there like I did, just rub it off or scrape it off real quick before it turns into that unsightly glossy looking thing. Okay, there we go. So the house is done for the most part. We've got a roof to put together yet, so let's do that. All right, so that was quick and easy. That kind of timed that under 20 minutes. That was great. So next, we can start putting the roof together. And the roof is actually pretty straightforward, but it does kind of curve a little bit, which is not a problem. It's actually going to be very easy. So what we're going to do is obviously you want to fold this, okay? And we're going to begin by anchoring one of these pieces to just this tab here at the top. And actually, it may be helpful to do the top two tabs. Okay, so I'm going to hit this with my finger to spread that glue out evenly across those two tabs. And then we're going to take this piece, and we just want to kind of fold and bring in the roof so that it matches up with the curve of this piece here. Okay. So just line that up as accurately as you can, like that. You can kind of feel that it's nice and flush. Okay, and the rest of this, we're going to have to kind of shape it a little bit, like one tab at a time, to get it to hug the rest of that. Okay, so I think the best way to do this is by pulling these tabs in towards you from the inside like this. Okay, and I'm pretty confident that if you take your time here, you gotta kind of move quick, but go easy with the glue on each of these. Maybe we'll just do the first three just to be safe. And I'm gonna grab a scrap piece of paper to help me spread that glue evenly onto those tabs. Just kind of just smacking it, just dabbing it, and then just painting it basically onto those tabs. And then we'll take one tab at a time and tuck it behind this piece, just kind of following this natural curve, just like that. And if you spread that glue out nice and thin, you should only really have to press it once for it to stay. Okay, so you can see those 3 tabs there are now in place. We can move on to the final 3 here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll just apply my glue like that, and then take my scrap piece and just kind of paint that glue onto the tab. You can always come back if you accidentally put too much glue on the first couple tabs. You can go back and spread that glue out onto the last one, or vice versa. And again, like I said, you just kind of just press it. You should have to just press it like once or twice, and it will stick. It's not a large surface area, so it should go rather quick. There we go. Okay. And you can see from the inside, those tabs are all nice and flush against that, that trim piece. So we'll do the same thing here on this side. And, you know, just to keep it manageable, we'll just do 3 at a time. And just do a little dot of glue on each one of these. And I'll use my scrap piece to kind of paint it. So you can see the glue there. Let me move this out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. See the glue there, and I'm just taking this piece and just rubbing it onto the tab, coating it completely. Here we go. And there we go. I had a little bit of glue on my finger. Just rub that off. There we go. And again, you're very gently nudging the main part of the roof onto this little panel so that it follows that curve, because this is slightly curved. Just barely, but it's definitely there. So just follow that natural curve there. Okay, so that was the first 3. Now we can take this large one, fold it back, this one and this one. Okay, and let's apply just a nice little dot of glue on there. The second one and the last one. And then let's take our scrap piece and just take and kind of paint that glue on that entire tab like that. Pretty straightforward stuff here. Okay, and then I would look at it from this angle just to make sure that you're following that curve. Here we go, and the last section. You can see how quickly that's going. Again, it's a testament to being sparse with the glue. Just go easy with it. There we go. And that looks great. Okay, so we'll flip this over, and now do the same thing on the front. That was the back. And we're going to repeat the same process here. We're going to begin with these top 2 tabs. Okay, this is kind of our anchor point. I would consider this probably the most important up here, because it really sets the tone for the rest of the assembly. And this thing should pretty much be in shape for the most part. I mean, this part is kind of, this side, I should say, is still a little more loose than the other side, but it's definitely closer than what we had on the other side, where we really had to kind of force it into place. Okay, now be patient while that sets. And if you want, you can flip it over onto your surface, and then with a dowel or whatever, I don't really want to put my finger in there, I'm going to push down on those tabs to really get them to stick. There we go. Let's take a look. Looks great. Okay, so now, just like we did before, I'm going to flip these tabs up. And we can't really put this down flat now because it's already got its little curve. And we'll put glue on the first 3 again. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. I'll grab my scrap piece of paper and use that to spread that glue onto those 3 tabs, like so. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can see that pretty good. Okay, and we're going to come from this angle here. Whoops, I got a little bit of glue on there. Get that off. And again, you're just going to follow that natural curve of the roof so that it lines up nicely with this front-facing piece, my red piece in this case. Okay, there we go. And that just leaves 3 more tabs. So we'll move that out of the way very gently and apply your glue to these 3 tabs remaining and spread that glue onto those tabs with your little scrap piece here. Perfect. And go ahead and continue lining up the edge of that with our trim piece. And there you have it. Very simple. Again, biggest tip I can offer right now is take your time and go easy with the glue. It always helps to kind of thin that glue out, spread it out. It dries a lot faster. And again, we're going to go here with the first 3 tabs there. 1, 2, 3. Not those are already done. 1, 2, 3 here. You can kind of pull those down with the nozzle on your glue bottle. Add your little dot, and then take your little scrap piece, paint that glue onto that entire tab, like so. That's good. Okay, I got some glue on that piece again. And whatever's comfortable, just take that and line it up with this trim piece. And I like to kind of rub my finger along the seam. You can feel whether or not it's flush. And that feels really good. Okay, and these last 3 now, let's bring those down and apply our glue. Just a few little dots. There's the next one and the last one. You can see those 3 tabs with the glue. I'm going to take my little scrap piece here and paint that glue onto the entire tab and finish this up. There we go. Get that nice and flush with this piece. There we go. Okay. So that turned out perfect. And now, while we have it in this state, okay, this is going to be the left side, this is going to be the right side. Boy, we're almost done here. Got a little chimney that we need to build, okay? And you'll notice that on top, we have this square piece and then 3 little tabs. And on the bottom, we have a series of triangular tabs. These are the tabs that we're going to use to anchor it to the roof. So all we need to do, you need to obviously fold this at the score marks. And we're just going to wrap this around itself. This is the tab that goes behind the final piece here to create this little cube, essentially. Okay, so let's get our glue on this tab. And I'm going to spread that out to the very edge, just by kind of dabbing my finger on there. And you can actually put this down flat and then grab this side and put that down flat right on there. Since this is a symmetrical piece, totally can do that. And then I'm going to open it up now by just squeezing, and it's going to form our little chimney. Okay, now these tabs down here, you don't need to do anything with these yet. We're going to use this in just a moment, but you can kind of fold them out of the way like that, open it up, and you'll see how this works in a second. It's pretty cool. Now for the top here, you can push these tabs down, and let's put our glue on these little guys here. And with my finger, I'm going to take and spread that glue out so that it's covering the entire little chimney there. And then you can take the top and fold it over to close it up. And I would hold it down, give it a second for the tackiness to kind of set in, and hold it and grab it, I should say. And then what we'll do is we'll flip it over, and then with a pencil or a dowel, you can push down from the inside to really help that grab a lot quicker. I'll grab a skinnier dowel to get into the corners. Okay, and there is your chimney. Now check this out. So we're going to take the chimney now, and I'm going to pop it through this little hole in the roof, like that. And these tabs now are going to get glued to the inside of the roof to keep the chimney in place. So we can start with just one of the tabs here. I'll start with the one on top. Then we'll take it and fold it over so that it's touching the inside part of the roof here. And that is actually started moving on me there. Hold on. Make sure it's in the right spot. It is. It might be easier to start with the bottom tab, but that's okay. Either way works. Okay, so we'll put some glue on the bottom tab, fold that over onto the back of the roof, the inside of the roof, I should say. Okay, give that a good squeeze. And then we have two tabs, left and right. Just a little dot of glue, and then fold it over up against the inside. Mine kind of looks wonky, but from the outside it looks fine. So that sometimes happens when you're working with tiny little pieces. That just leaves one more little guy here. I kind of squirted it out too much, so just dab it with your finger, wipe your finger off, and then you can see the end result here. We've got our little chimney. We do have a little cap that we need to build, but I'm going to do that last. Okay, right now you can actually put the roof on. Okay, now as I mentioned, if you want your chimney on the right, you can by design. We have it on the left. That's going to go like so. And one thing I want to mention is here on the bottom part of the roof, you'll see a series of score marks. They're vertical score lines going up and down. Same thing with this on this side. And that's just to help you get this centered on this. Okay, so what we're going to do, oops, we're going to put glue here. We're going to put glue here. I might do a little bit right at the top. And then here and here. Doesn't need to be pretty. Okay, again, my chimney is going on the left. I'm going to pop that on. I want the peak of the roof to match up with the peak of the house, the actual structure. And then if you want, what you can do, just kind of look at it from this angle, and it just so happens that I got that lined up with those score marks perfectly. It's dead center, and my roof is perfect, actually. And just give that a press. You can actually push from the inside too to help it really grab hold of those areas where we applied our glue. That's done. Okay. And if we want, at this point, you can put the bottom on. We don't need to really get in there anymore. This is the bottom piece. So grab this tab. And this no one's going to see, so I'm not overly concerned about it being perfect. Just line that up nice and centered. Now this is a rectangle, it's not a perfect square, so make sure you got the right side. Okay, get that lined up there. And then we'll flip that over, and we're going to apply glue to the remaining three tabs. Again, doesn't have to be pretty. We still have to construct the base to put this on, which I'll show you here in a second. And then just take it and close it up. And just make sure that it's nice and centered on there. I'm going to open up this door and lay this down onto the bottom and just push down from the inside to get that to really stick, and close it up. And there is the bottom. Okay, so check that out. That looks so cool right now. Very simple. Now it's time to put together the actual roof. So there's two sides, obviously. The left side does not have a chimney, so we're going to use a total of, that goes over there. Wait a second here. Oh, yeah, see, my chimney was supposed to be on the left. Whoops. That's okay. Either way, it's all the same. So on the left-hand side, we're going to have a total of 6 pieces, and they're all going to be, there's not going to be any cutouts on them. Okay, so it's just like that, total of 6 pieces. And then the other side with the chimney is going to have 1, 2, 3 solid pieces. There's one that looks solid, but it has a tiny little notch cut out of it. That's going to go on that side. And then there's 2 more pieces that there's clearly a cut on this piece, and then clearly a cut here. Okay, and then also each side is going to take one of these. Okay, so just line them up like that, get them sorted, and we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. This first piece is going to go right down here, flush with the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our glue onto this section and apply it. You definitely want to put some glue out to the very edges of these little pieces and pop that on there. You want that flush with the bottom of the roof, and then also kind of feel the left and the right side to make sure that it's centered. And you may feel while you're doing that it's actually kind of encroaching over past this surface, which is actually by design. So you actually want that. That's totally fine. All right, now we're gonna take these pieces and work our way up. You'll notice that there are a series of score lines as you work your way up. The top of this is gonna butt up to that little score mark. So that's your indicator as to where you wanna place it. Okay, so I'm gonna start here on this. Just get your glue on this entire thing, this entire piece, and make sure you get work some glue out to the very edge of this piece. We want it nice and flush along the front and the back, and just kind of nudge that up to and butt it up to the little score mark. Again, I'm using these two fingers to feel and make sure that it's centered, and that looks good. And I'll take my dowel and use that to apply pressure towards the bottom where the fold is, because I don't want to push down too hard on that area so I don't flatten this out. So I'm using my dowel to get into that little crevice there. Okay, perfect. And then we're just going to work our way up, and this one's going to go right up to the next little score mark on the roof. Okay, so let's get our glue on this piece and spread that glue out to the edge. Okay. All right. And just really butting it up to that score mark and pretty much covering it. Okay, not too much, just kind of nudge it up until it just disappears, just slightly disappears. Okay, and again, using my little dowel for that little crevice there, help that get some additional pressure. And moving on up. Okay, so this is a pretty repetitive process. So if you get it and you want to pause and listen to some headlines or something, once I go over to the other side, you can feel free to scrub through and hit play when I get to the other side of the roof. There's just some little tidbits that I want to share with you there. Otherwise, just hang out and I'll walk you through the whole thing here. Okay, and again, using my little dowel in that crevice there. All right, moving up here to the next piece. And it's funny, I mentioned this during one of the other videos, that I'm actually going to a German restaurant tomorrow for dinner. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, I don't know how many of you guys play slots. I got a feeling that it's pretty popular among our demographic, but for those of you that have ever gone to a casino, have ever played a game called Heidi's Beer House, it's like a German slot. There's some versions of it that feature a screen above the main screen where there's a guy playing an accordion. And that guy, his name is Peter, and he's actually the musician that performs at the restaurant that I'm going to tomorrow. He's a real cool guy. I'm not sure how he ended up on a slot machine, but if you're ever playing Heidi's Beer House at the local casino, or maybe at your local restaurant or gas station, if you see that, that's Peter. He's a really cool guy. He's actually from Germany. His brother comes out and visits sometimes, and they both perform together. So it's just kind of interesting. Okay, so moving up here to the next tab, the next marker. Again, you want to kind of just make sure it's centered, then also just barely cover that little marker. You almost just barely want to make it disappear. Okay, using my little dowel for that little corner piece, and it's really helping a lot to keep that nice and flat in that section there. Usually you try to get your finger in there, you may end up warping these little shingles, and who wants that? We don't want that. Okay, moving on to the final one. Now with this one, all we have to do is make sure that we align it with the peak of the roof. And in that case, we also want to put a little line of glue up towards the top and run that glue to the very top, just like that. Okay, and that is your marker, so to speak, very peak of the roof here. And use your finger to kind of feel and make sure everything is flush. That feels real good. And there we go, nice and centered, beautiful. That came out perfect. Okay, here we go. And once this is really set, we can take and kind of pull these little shingles down. We don't want them kind of not straight out. We want them down just a tad, like that. Okay, that looks awesome. All right, so onto the other side now. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start with the bottom. Where's my little strip? There it is. Okay, we're gonna start with this piece, just like we did on the left side of the house. Okay. Let's get our glue on there. Make sure you get some glue out to the very edge and get that nice and centered and flush with the bottom. So you can use your fingers. I'm using my 2 thumbs to feel the bottom, and then these 2 pointer fingers to make sure it's flush with the sides. That's perfect. Okay, now we're not quite ready to use the pieces with the cutouts yet, but we will be soon. We're going to start off with, I believe just the first one's going to be a plain one. Now don't forget that one of these looks like it's plain, but it does have a little notch cut out right here. We're going to save that. Just start with one that is full and has no cutouts. That's going on first. Get some glue out to the very ends, like so. There we go. And lining this one up with the first set of score marks. Give it a nudge upward, cover that that marker just a tad, and then use your fingers here to make sure that it's centered. I'm gonna grab my dowel, give that little nook some extra force, extra downward pressure. There we go. Okay, now with this one here, this is where we're going to need to find this one that has the tiny little notch cut out of it. Just barely need it, but it does need to be there. Otherwise, you'll have the chimney kind of preventing it from going where it needs to. Okay, so let's get that one in place. Remember, this is the one with the barely noticeable notch at the top. Okay, get that on there. Still using the little markers as your guide on both sides. And then again, going left and right here, making sure it's centered. Perfect. There we go. Wonderful. Grab my dowel, push that down right there. Push that down right there. Perfect. I can bring that down. Okay, so now here with this one, we're going to need this piece here with the large cutout there. I'm just going to slide that up like so. Okay, so it's really the same process, just using different shaped shingles here to allow for our little chimney. Spreading that glue out to the very edges of the shingle piece and getting that up there. You're going to do the same thing here. Make sure that you've got it lined up with the little markers, and also, same thing, make sure that it's centered. Okay, there we go, perfect. And do the same thing here with my little dowel. Give that a little extra press. I think I got a little smudge on there of some ink or something. Okay, now the last one here that has a cutout. The cutout is actually on the folded area. So what we need to do is just like we did before, throw glue on this entire section, and then as we place it down, just make sure that it's not, it's in the middle and the chimney's actually going through that little cutout. You really can't mess it up, I don't think. Okay, look for the next set of score marks. Use those as your guide. Okay, just kind of hide them barely. And then check with these 2 fingers, make sure it's centered. It is. And if you want, give that little crevice there an extra little push. Perfect. Okay. And then the last two pieces are business as usual. Nothing fancy. Just again, get that glue out to the edges, like so. Voila. And line that up with the next score mark. Make it disappear. Center it left and right. Press that down. And using my dowel. Perfect. And finally, just like we did on the other side, this one, the little marker is the peak of the roof. You just want to match that up right at the top. Should pretty much join the piece on the other side. I mean, it's not going to touch it because they're on different planes, but get that right up to the top. There we go. Again, kind of pushing on the left and the right, feeling that, making sure it's nice and flush. Looks great. And getting a little dowel in there, right there, and right there. Perfect. I can take and pull these shingles down a little bit so they're facing a little bit down. And there you have it. Okay, so that looks really cool. All right, so all that's left now is to put our base together. And I don't think I mentioned this yet, but you have a little template. Okay, and this is optional. I recommend it because it'll make a sturdier base. This little template you're going to put on top of a large piece of foam board or foam core, and you're going to use it to kind of trace around, and then you're going to cut this with like an X-Acto knife to size. Okay, so that is just going to create a little more stability on this piece. Now here is the base. I'm going to take and fold the big tabs out of the way so that the assembly of the tabs is easier, or the gluing of the tabs, I should say, is easier. These are the thin little vertical walls. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start on this side where the lid is hinged. Okay, and we're going to start with these two little triangular tabs here. We're going to get those glued down first. Okay, and I'm just going to hit that with my finger to thin it out so it sets a lot faster. I'm going to pop that down and pull this piece up, and that tiny little wall up against the triangular tab. And you can see I have this folded back so I can actually squeeze right here on this little area. Otherwise, I'd be trying to squeeze like back here like that, and I don't like that. I like to actually be able to see everything that I'm doing and just get the stuff that you don't need out of the way temporarily. Okay, so that looks like it's good. I forgot that I put glue on here. Yeah, it should still work, maybe. We'll see. And line that up and give that a press and hold. Yeah, see now that pulled apart on the other side. It's okay. Okay, so with this, you really want to be patient before you move on to the other tab. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hold this until I'm 100% sure that it's completely set. And even then, because of the weight of it, I might want to rip off, but I really shouldn't. There we go. Okay, so onto the other little triangular tab. I'm rushing it right now. You should probably wait until that thing is fully set before you move on. I just don't want this video to drag on forever. So, okay, now we'll take that triangular piece, tuck it behind. See, now that time we're good. I waited long enough, and that piece really took a good hold this time, and it's not coming apart. So I'm going to do the same with this side, just really hold it until it's fully set. Okay, give that a few moments, and then we're going to move on to the other side where we have the same two little triangular tabs that we need to glue down. I'm going to fold this over this way. There you go. Okay, so that worked out nicely. All right, so now we've got these two little triangular tabs. Same thing, it's just that we're not dealing with that large, heavy flap. So we can go ahead and put our glue on these tabs, thin that out, spread it out, and we can take this wall and bring it over on top of the triangular tab and hold that in place. It helps if it's all folding the same way. And I'm just going to be patient here and hold this until it's fully set. I'm wondering if this base is a little bit thinner than the other two, but I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. I think it's just, maybe I'm rushing it. Okay, and this other side, get that in place, just hold it. There we go. That's much better. Okay, give it a few seconds, and that should do it. Now we'll take these tabs and fold them in. Be gentle with it in case it's not fully set yet. And we're going to take our little foam board piece and just pop it right in there. You can glue it down if you want. I actually probably recommend that you just add a little bit of glue so it doesn't jiggle around in there. Just pop that in there, press it down. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as the center of it is nice and covered, you're in good shape. And we're going to close this up by applying glue to these 3 tabs. And I want to take this glue and spread it out to the very edge so that the base looks almost like it's like 3D printed, so you don't really see any of the seams. That's typically why I do this. It just gives you a nice, crisp end result. Okay, there we go, and we're going to close this up. Focus on aligning it with this side first. If you need to kind of push the walls in a bit, that's totally normal. Okay, same thing with the sides here. If you need to kind of give them a nudge, after you nudge it in, just give it a push down as well, like so. And there we go. Okay, keep pushing down on the seam where the 2 sections are joining. Make sure that we don't get any gaps or anything lifting up. We want it to look nice and crisp and smooth. So this is now just a scrap piece. You can use that for another project if you ever need it. And I actually took some ink and I just hit the edges of this just to make it look a little more realistic. You can ink this entire project, all 3 of them actually, however you want. There were some areas where I felt like it was kind of pointless to ink, but I did ink pretty much all of the window trim, some of the wood panel trim, and it just kind of makes it look more natural instead of so graphic, I guess. Okay, so there's our base, and at this point we can take our entire house and throw some glue on the bottom of this. And I am going to take this glue and spread it out a little bit to the perimeter, like so, and then I'll take and pop it on there. Now you see that there's some score marks on here, and then the letter F. The F is right side up. You're looking at it the correct way. You want to leave a little bit of negative space or empty space at the front of the house, and just make sure that everything else looks nice and lined up. That looks perfect. And then all we have left, actually while we're doing this, you can open up the back door and press down from the inside to help the rest of that get a good grip. And then we just have 2 more little pieces that we need to build. One is a little stone doorstep, and then one is the little cap for our chimney. Okay, so you can see here we've got these little triangular tabs. I'm going to start by putting glue on one of them, and it's kind of small, so I'll just dab it with a piece of paper. I'm going to tuck that in behind the wall that's connected to what I'll call the lid, the largest piece on here. That's just kind of tucked away. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second once I get it to stick, and that was probably it. There's the lid, I'll call it. Just move that out of the way so I can get my finger in there a lot easier. And then we'll go over to the other side, throw some glue on that tab, tuck that behind, and press and hold that in place. Just make sure it's nice and aligned, and be very patient here. That side looks like it took very well, and just be patient, let that hold. Yeah, and then we've got, this is the smallest piece here. It shouldn't be a problem, but Yeah, usually I kind of construct some of this stuff beforehand, but I kind of went backwards this time. I was feeling kind of crazy. Just going with the flow. All right, then we've got 2 little tabs left. Add your glue. Thin it out a bit. I'll make it go quicker. And pull this wall up against the tab. So the tab is on the inside. Same thing with this side. And just give that a quick press. That should do it. Now we'll take these 3 tabs, fold them in like so. And again, we've got ourselves a little envelope for a mouse here. Throw your glue onto these tabs. And I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edges. Okay, and finally close it up. Align it with the side opposite of the side that is already hinged. And if you need to, again, push these walls in a little bit so that they match up with that little lid part so that you don't really see the walls from this vantage point. It should be nice and flush. And just press and hold that down for a moment. That should pretty much be all you need to do. And then you can take and throw a little bit of glue on the bottom of this and pop it right underneath the door. Make sure you get it nice and centered. And just press and hold that in place like that. All right, last little bit here. We've got the little cap for the chimney, and it's basically the same thing as the little stone step that we just put together. We've got 4 little triangular tabs that we're going to join to their adjacent walls here. Okay, so let's start off on either side, it doesn't matter. Just throw a little bit of glue on each of these little triangular tabs. I'm going to hit that with my scrap piece of paper to spread that glue out. And we'll take and push that in up against the walls of the adjacent section there. And this is going to test your dexterity, that's for sure. And I'm going to grab my dowel to push that tab up against the other wall on the other side. Okay, and then once it's mostly there, I'll give it a little extra nudge to make sure that it's nice and square. And when you start getting into, and actually, you know what, I've seen a lot of you make miniature versions of all this stuff, so I know you're capable of doing it. Although if you made this even smaller, this piece would get even smaller, and that might be a little challenging. Okay, so I've got those 2 tabs in place. I'm going over to the other section here where we have the other little triangular tabs. Throwing a little bit of glue on there, and I'm tucking that in. The tabs go inside. Let me move this tab out of the way so I can get my finger in there and push that tab against the inside of the adjacent wall. Same thing on this side. I mean, if you've made boxes with us before, this is no different, minus the fact that it's just a little smaller. Okay, so now that we have the walls constructed, we can take these little tabs and fold them in like so. Throw a little bit of glue onto the tabs and just kind of hit those. I usually hit that with my finger. I don't know why I'm touching the paper all of a sudden. This is very accessible for my finger. Might as well use it. And then close it up. And if you need to, again, take and nudge these walls in a little bit to make it nice and square. There's so much, there's a little bit of tension in this piece right now because of the score mark. There's only a couple score marks on here, and the rest of it is just a natural fold. And that there's energy in there. There's a little resistance, but that's okay. Just keep holding it while it sets. And then you can throw a little bit of glue on top of your chimney. And we'll get that glued down. Make sure it's nice and centered. Take a look at it, mostly from the front, I'd say is important to get it centered there. And then take a look at it from the side. That should look centered as well. Okay, that looks great. And the last little thing that I want to mention, totally optional, but it is really cool. And in the last one, I didn't do it because my fingers were too sticky, but if you take a little cotton ball and you pull a little bit off, like that, and kind of form a ball. You can see I've got glue on my fingers. Form a little ball at the bottom. Just kind of shape it into a ball, and then take the top and just kind of twist it. And you can kind of fluff it up like that into what gives the illusion of smoke. And then you can just kind of glue that to the top of the chimney. So it looks like there's a little bit of someone's having a little, you know, the fireplace is going, or maybe it's a stove, who knows. But anyway, I'm gonna do that when my fingers are not all gluey. And that's it. That's it for our Bavarian Village House A. And I've got 3 of them again. You've got a little back door there, so you can put your electronic tea light in there. Don't put a real candle in there. Otherwise, Bavaria will go up in flames, and we don't want that because it's a very, very pretty state. But anyway, I had a great time. I hope you did too. If you enjoyed the video, please visit our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit that little bell. Doing so will give you notifications anytime we release anything new, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can type in this little URL that you see here at the bottom. So anyway, I can't wait to see how all 3 of these look. I'm gonna send a few photos to my mom, and I gotta show the rest of the team how everything turned out. But I can't wait to see yours, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.